Steve said, Craig, do you think we will make some big signings in January if we are in with a shout of going for the quad? I'd like to think we would, Steve, but my mindset would be if everything was going tickety-boo in January and we were in with a shout of, as you said, 1, 2, 3, 4 trophies, I would imagine that the narrative would be, well, everything's going great. Why would we want to mess that up? I, like you, would like to think, well, bring in that extra player if possible there, that bit of quality that would enhance your ability to have a strong finish to the season. But truth be told, bro, we're going to have to wait and see. I really don't know what to expect in that regard. I don't know if I even brought that up on screen for you, but let me bring it up there again. Yeah, so I don't know what to expect in January, in all honesty, Steve. I really don't, mate. It's a market that you usually have to gauge a little bit closer. Now, the Zubimendi thing, I think that's kind of a good segue into that. Again, all I can say to you is there doesn't seem to be any indication from the player side that he has changed his mind. I think Fabrizio Romano said that. Certainly, I think David Lynch has said that as well. But, you know, all we can say is if he ever does, that the club are still open to the idea of signing Zubimendi. I don't want people to get too hung up on it, though. And yes, I know we did put it on the thumbnail tonight, but, you know, it's just one of these things that isn't going to go away, I think, until he probably signs a new deal with Sociedad or moves. So be prepared, this one might stick around for a while. If Sociedad continue to be this bad and end up at the bottom, Zubimendi's head's going to turn. The love of the mountains can only take you so far. Yeah, look, you'd have to look around, wouldn't he, Rusba, and look and think, this club, as much as I love it, isn't going in the direction he would certainly want it to be going. They have fallen away in recent years. They've lost some big players and they're struggling. You know, they've had a terrible start to the season, and it would only be natural for him to have a look around and think, you know, is this going to be a club that I'm kind of going to be just keeping above relegation, or are they going to try and get back up the league table? I mean, I don't know their finances well enough to give you the answer on that one. City will bring in Zubimendi or Bruno Guimaraes. So there have been, I guess, I don't know if it's substantiated reports, but there's certainly been chatter on social media that Manchester City could look to the likes of Zubimendi. What I would say, though, in all honesty, is I don't think Zubimendi would be the type of player Manchester City need to replace. You know, you look at Rodri and you certainly think of the way he plays the game very differently, physicality-wise, to the way you would expect Zubimendi to play it. Yeah, so I don't know if it'll be a natural fit there for Manchester City, and nor do I know if they're going to look to replace. They can't do anything now about the Rodri injury until January anyway, so there is a chance for us, Arsenal, Villa and anybody else in and around the top of the league to try and capitalise on this. As much as we never want to wish an injury on a player, as I said last night, I've got to be honest about it and say it certainly weakens Manchester City as well, which certainly doesn't hurt our chances, but we never want to see a player get injured. Got to keep saying that because it is true. Morganski said, Craig, any realistic player you would like in Zubimendi position? Ederson. It's the only name I can really give you because, quite frankly, mate, I kind of stopped thinking about the midfield transfer after the whole Zubimendi nonsense because I was pissed off with transfers. I just wanted to get back to watching football and talking about, you know, who we're playing next and stuff. So haven't given it much thought, but yeah, Ederson's the only one I can really think of off the top of my head. Do we really need Zubimendi with Bajcetic coming back? I think it's a fair question, Albert Joe Francie. It's a fair question, but we don't know how Bajcetic is going to get on. Like, we know he's getting minutes. We know he's playing, which is good. You know, he's played 2 games in a week, so that's certainly a positive, but we don't know to what level. We don't know if he's going to be able to get to the level we need quick enough. Again, that's the whole idea behind London I'm out, I guess. So it's a fair point, but I would still say what we need right now is another midfielder. And if that's Zubimendi, Ederson, Bajcetic or somebody else, I think this season is going to test... It's going to test the squad depth in midfield. It looks from the outside like we're stacked, right? If you start talking about Jones, Elliott, Endo, Morton, Neone, they're players, but how many of those would you feel comfortable, as an example, dropping in against Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal? I don't know, in all honesty. I would certainly, I think I'd be a liar if I sat here and said if I seen one of them gents on the starting 11 to play one of those big games, it would worry me. Do you like Wharton from Palace? Said James Sen. Certainly, yeah. Do you know what? I was late to the show with Adam Wharton. You know, even last season when lots of you guys were speaking about Wharton at Crystal Palace, it took me a while before I actually started to cop on to how good he was and watch him in any more depth. So I think from my reading up of all of this stuff, Liverpool, Manchester City are two clubs certainly keeping tabs on Adam Wharton. But again, Palace aren't going to want to continually be asset stripped. They're probably excuse me, they're probably setting up next season to maybe lose Mark Gay, which would be another injection of cash for them to the tune of about 65 million quid. So they certainly won't need to be moving these guys on from a financial standpoint. But again, as Steve Parish has said, and I always think Steve Parish speaks well when he speaks about the realistic prospect of what Palace can do. You know, he knows some players like Eze or Elise or Adam Wharton, they're going to want to eventually try to play the Champions League, and he doesn't want to stand in their way, but he also wants to make sure that his club, Crystal Palace, are sufficiently resourced. If Zubi is clever, he won't go to City because once Rodri is fit, he won't get a sniff. Yes and no. I think Rodri's probably going to leave City at the end of the summer, in all honesty. I just have a feeling he's going to end up moving back to Spain. And I will say I don't know if Zubimendi would be able to do the role that Rodri does. You know, you don't think of Zubimendi being a physical destroyer as you would with Rodri. You know, having the aerial ability that Rodri would have, the physicality that Rodri would have. You know, Rodri's a good footballer on top of all of these things, but he's also a big physical unit, isn't he, in the centre of the park? What else have we got? Craig, I think instead of Zubimendi, we should try to get Onana from Aston Villa. There's no chance. You know, Aston Villa's fans' heads would fall off. They've already had to get rid of Douglas Luiz because of the whole PSR calculations. Then they've got in and gotten Onana, who started really well for them and looks like a very good player. I don't think there's any chance of getting him out of Villa, mate. You know, if they keep challenging and getting towards Champions League like they are, with a great manager like they have and backing from the owners, I don't see he's going to be an option for us, unfortunately. But he's a good player. There's plenty of options for a DM. We don't need Zubimendi. You see, that's all very well and good. But the club seemingly felt like there was only one option that they were happy with. And what I don't want to happen is a fourth year of will they or won't they with regards to the midfield situation. It needs to be resolved. And with our owners, it feels like the resolution is often a cheap way out. So, for instance, will Bajcetic make it or not? I hope the answer is yes, but I want the answer to be yes, definitely because he's good enough and not because he's already a Liverpool player and it's a cheaper option. So, it was certainly frustrating to see in the summer that we put all our eggs in the one basket. We weren't able to convince Zubimendi, and then it was kind of shrug of the shoulders time and off into the season we go, hoping for the best. Lexter said, well, if he comes in, I'm not buying a shirt. Don't. I mean, look at it this way. Have you ever made a decision in your life that you've maybe changed your mind on? I definitely have. You know, where I'd initially say no to something or yes to something, and then upon reflection, maybe realise you've made the wrong decision. It's understandable that a guy would want to stay at the club that he was at since he was 12 and in an area his family are settled and loves. It's understandable that that was a tough decision to make. So all I can say is, initially I was like you. I was thinking, nah, you've had your chance, mate, do one. But, you know, sitting back thinking about it, ultimately I want what's best for Liverpool Football Club, and if he did change his mind and he did say, well, you know what, I got it wrong. Surely in life you want to be able to admit you've made a mistake if you have. You know, it's worse if you're pig-headed about these things and just go, well, I said no and I'm regretting it, but I'm going to be miserable and keep staying here. So that's the way I look at it anyway. Harvey King, how are you, Harvey? Said, hi Craig, I hope that you're well. I'm not too bad, sir. I hope all's good with you. I would take Zubimendi, but if not coming, then have a second or third option. Absolutely. I think most of us would agree with you on that sentiment, mate. It is frustrating when you don't have a backup option because you get your hopes up, don't you? You know, you start dreaming, hoping, praying, whatever gets you through it, and then to be let down or it not to happen, it definitely does feel like it a tease. Yeah, and this for me has been a bugbear for a while, this position. I really was expecting it to be sorted this summer. Like, I cannot say this enough times, but to go into the summer transfer window and us all to be kind of, I'm not trying to say led down a pathway, but to be told to expect the possibility of a midfielder, a defender, and a utility forward, and only to bring in the utility forward, who, by the way, is a great signing, and a goalkeeper for the future, not address probably the two main areas of concern that we had, which is central midfield and centre back. By all means, it's great to see Ryan Gravenberch doing well, and long may that continue. But it just feels like it's always a cheap option with us, always.